Good morning. Hello, everybody, wherever you may tune in from the world. Welcome to this webinar, the last one of 2020, actually. So quite an exciting one. My name is Nico Freitag. I'm working here at TechnologyCatalogue.com as a business development lead. I'll be functioning somewhat as a host today and answering or asking the questions you may have to our two presenters today. And just before we get to those two presentations, just a few quick basics. In terms of the interaction, you can use the chat box on the right for questions. I will read them out after each presentation. Regarding content, slides, and so on, there will be a wrap-up email. We'll send you slides and videos and everything which might be of interest to you after this. And thirdly, where to find those technologies on TechnologyCatalogue.com. And that actually nicely segues me into the agenda of today. I will give a quick overview of TechnologyCatalogue.com. And then we will get to our two presentations, starting today with MyPass Global. I have the pleasure of having Matt Smith here today, CEO, who's going to introduce that for a short 10 minutes. And we're going to have a Q&A afterwards about it, which I'm looking very much forward to. And then we get to our second one, which is QuickSafety. Kurt Alexander here today, CEO. And we're going to have the same there, 10-minute presentation plus a 5-minute Q&A. And then we're going to wrap it up. Shouldn't take longer than 5 minutes. So I think 45 minutes, we should be having plenty of time here. So, TechnologyCatalogue.com. Well, if you go to the homepage, you have pretty much three options. If you know exactly what you're looking for, you can use the search bar at the top and type in the name of your technology or company. If you want to browse a bit more, you can go a bit more to the bottom and select the industry you're most interested in. Oil, gas, renewables, petrochemicals, ports and maritime being our latest module. Or, and that's actually what we're going to do today, we can choose one of our newest additions, the X industry themes, something like safety, digitalization, CO2 emission, and so on. And today, given the name, we will click safety. And that actually brings us to the array of technologies we have in that domain. And highlighted here, by nice coincidence, we have the two technologies of today resting in the same line, MyPass Global and QuickSafety. So this is a bit of an overwhelming one, but I can always go to the left, use the filter function, and then filter down a bit more to find exactly what I'm looking for. But today, and by pure coincidence, I'm clicking one, I will see the technology. In red, there's a quick description. In blue, below that is resting the pro and con list. At the top right, we have, per new UX design, our TRL level. If the bar is full, as in this one, it means it's a full TRL level. And below that, we have a quick presentation of the company. We can visit the website. We can use a contact form. Scrolling down a bit, we'll see that here resting at the top right now. And below that, we have 2 or 3, I would say, very important features of our technology. We have the relative business impact highlighted here in red. And what I personally find very neat is that our technologies can showcase immediately their credibility by deployment record on the right, technology deployed by. And we also invite clients and also independent experts to write a review on this to really make sure that the technologies we list position themselves as strongly as possible. And this is really what we do. So if you want to list a technology, if you would like to host a webinar like this, or if you want to hear about our premium services, we do quite a few marketing insights and consultancy workshops along those lines. We have them. Or if you just want to have a chat and have a few questions, feel free to reach out to me. My name is Nico Freitag, once again, and I'm looking very much forward to hearing to you. But that's really everything from my side, and I want to leave it to that for now from us. And I'm looking very much forward to having our first presentation here. So, Matt, if you want to take it away from here, very good to having you.
All right. Thank you very much, Nico, and thanks for having us online here. Let me see if I do a good job here of bringing it up. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes, we can.
Great, excellent. So look, I'll climb in, and thanks again, everyone, for coming along. Obviously, safety and compliance management are pretty key topics out there, and it's critical that we do everything we can as an industry to bring workers home safely. As Nico said, I'm Matt Smith, CEO of MyPass Global. What our business is about is essentially helping companies with that compliance management aspect relating to their workforce, and helping companies ensure they've got the right workers with the right skills at the right time. The key difference with MyPass is that we've inverted that data model. So instead of companies managing safety and compliance data on their workforce, training, competencies, that type of thing, instead of them managing it from the top down, we've actually empowered the individual through a digital work skills passport. So it's essentially a verified single source of truth for that individual, and they can connect with one or more companies as they move around. So one of the key use cases I thought I'd highlight as part of this is when that problem becomes quite acute, particularly for turnarounds, shutdowns, and outages, for that rapid onboarding and offboarding of contractors. There's a lot more breadth to what we do here at MyPass, but I thought this might be a useful sort of use case for us to take a deeper dive in, and it's one we certainly see a lot of challenges still out there in the market. So in terms of the agenda, I'll talk to the problem. First of all, the existing process, some of the impacts of the current processes that are running, the role of technology to support that, a couple of case studies, and then if you stick around there, we'll give you the chance to do a bit of a self-assessment to see how well you think you're doing in some of these areas. So firstly, the problem. So there's sort of four key areas that I've highlighted here where some of these problems pop up. One is around control. And how labor intensive it is and hard to track when you're rapidly bringing on new contractors. The second one's around access, in terms of people getting their hands on safety critical data easily and efficiently. The third one is around the delivery, and this is often where some of the biggest costs come, is shutdowns or turnarounds that run over time or budget due to the inability to hire suitably skilled labor. And some of those production downtime costs can range in the hundreds of thousands to some of the companies we work with, $1 million an hour in terms of lost production if facilities aren't started up on time. And then the assurance and guaranteeing that every individual on site has the right skills and competencies for the task. So in terms of some of the existing processes that we see out there on a regular basis, I'm sure some of you are close to this would acknowledge there's still a lot of spreadsheets out there. It's not unusual to have a 36-column spreadsheet with around 1,500, 1,800 rows for each worker, trying to track all those steps of approvals, mobilization, competency, and training data capture. And also manual updates. So lots of manual keying, both from the site administrators, if you're the asset owner or operator, and also from the service companies themselves. And often that data sits in multiple different systems, so people can't get their hands on it easily. There's a big reliance on the service providers as well to be securing the appropriate resources to deliver against the scope, and often it's not till the turnaround starts that the people have that knowledge of the skills and competencies that are on site. And because of some of those drop-offs, there's a lot of over-scoping in the planning phase, where additional resources are scoped into jobs unnecessarily. And often that can mean two things: either the workers don't turn up, or worse, you're paying for more resources than what you need. And then the last one is around the assurance piece. So trusting that all your contractors and service provider workers turning up have the appropriate background checks and certification and what they need. So what's the impact of not having the right workers with the right skills on a site or a facility? I won't read through all of these in the interest of time, and you'll get these slides afterwards, but I'll pick out a couple. So under the sort of pillar risk there of control, delays in mobilization is definitely one that we see a lot. So a late start to the turnaround or shutdown project, and work scopes that need to either be fitted into the back end of the turnaround, or in worst case scenario, that turnaround gets pushed back. Another one I'll pick out under the access pillar there is time wasted trying to track training and competency information. And that's not just for that initial onboarding of the worker. It's when they cross through site. It's when they go through to restricted areas. It's when they get permits at permit huts. There's sort of multiple touch points where it's important to know who has what verified training. In the delivery side, we often see a lot of rework caused by individuals that weren't skilled to take on the tasks that were scoped out for them in the work pack. And then lastly, in terms of the assurance piece, it's unfortunate to sort of acknowledge this, but our team that does the verification of training on a regular basis, it's not a regular thing to come up against, but does from time to time come against fraudulent documents and workers who have tried to push out the issue date of a confined space training ticket or first aid or working at heights or whatever it may be. And it's important to detect that, so you've got that real-time assurance. And so how can we use technology to facilitate improvements? And there's a whole range of options here, which I'll sort of pick off a few from here. I'll sort of go to the bottom of the first list there under control. And that's one of the key design criteria that we sort of believe strongly in, and that's give individual users, starting with the workers, that self-serve access to their data and their information instead of maintaining it on their behalf. In our world, for MyPass, that means a digital work skills passport. And for their employers, the service providers, they get their own portal where they can manage worker pools. And if you're the site owner or operator, actually having those dashboards where you can see that aggregated data in real time, which I've touched on again there under access. So all training and competency records centralized in a single portal. So again, just having that information at your fingertips in real time is really important, of course, based on what user access you're allowed to have. And then under the delivery side as well, I think it's really important that that workers are actually assigned to the right scopes of work for their skills and competencies, and we often see a lot of time wasted in that area, and also cost from work that's not done properly in terms of rework because a flange was welded incorrectly, or someone used the wrong tools for the job, etc. That's kind of a big cost we find in turnarounds. And then lastly, the assurance side as well. We get a lot of positive feedback around the ability to have competency information that's actually independently verified by specialists, that is portable with the individual, so companies don't have to keep repeating that process of making sure that people have what they say they have. Now, I've just included this as a screenshot just to let you know what that means in our world. This isn't sort of a MyPass demo or a pitch in that regard, but you can kind of see here, this is just a service provider's view who's mobilizing their crew for a turnaround. These are all dummy workers, as you'd expect. You can see where that hover over there is with 100%. You can see at a glance exactly what skills and training that they need. You can run either or scenarios. You can tag workers. You can take them through a selection process at the top from matched and approved through to confirming them. Run work breakdown structures for projects, etc. As I said, this is just one of the modules within MyPass, but it's I guess intended just to give you a visual of just how simple some of this information can be presented. And you can drill into worker profiles from this view and see exactly what they have, rather than going through that whole sort of convoluted process of looking up that data on a spreadsheet. So the prize for getting it right, and this is really the core of where we try and add value to our customers, is really around two things: reducing risk exposure and reducing the cost impact. And as I've mentioned before, there is a cost to hurting people, apart from obviously the reputational risk and not having that peace of mind, but it does cost to have injuries. $92,000, that's Australian dollars, per injury avoided is the statistics here, and it doesn't take too many of those to start racking up, and obviously you want to be avoiding fatalities and being proactive to avoid that. And then on the right hand column, in terms of cost impact, rework can be several $100s in each event, and in terms of unproductive time as well, it's important to make sure that you've got those right skills, as I said before. And then lastly, in terms of admin savings as well, we find there's often more people than are required on a site to actually track and onboard all those individuals at the same time. So lastly, this is sort of what I wanted to leave you with, just to do a bit of self-reflection. As I said, some companies do this a lot better than others, but a bit of a self-assessment. We've got a few check boxes here, and these are some of the things that we see out in the industry as best practice. One of them is having contractors self-maintain their own profiles and training records, and to be proactive with their own expiries, etc., and also have that portability. Having the independent verification of documentation that comes in, so you're not putting a burden on your team when you have those peaks in workforce coming to site. Real-time dashboards to show the status of where you're at, so there aren't surprises if you're short by 20 people or 10 pipe fitters or whatever it might be. The next one's a big one in terms of manual data entry, which is are your mobilization systems integrated? So what that means is if contractors are onboarded, does that then feed through to site access automatically without someone then keying in that same data? Does it flow through to, if you're a remote site, flight bookings and accommodation and so forth, and then eventually offboarding? And then lastly, contractor performance feedback. Are you capturing that? So if the same individual comes back with a different provider in the future, that you've actually got some performance history on those individuals, and you can potentially play a more active role in terms of who turns up. So those are just a few things for you to go through and reflect on. And if there's anyone who's interested in sort of doing a deeper dive here, happy for you to grab my details from Nico, or we can share them after this. There's sort of some risk management frameworks around shutdowns that you might find useful to take that a step further. But yeah, the intent here was just to take one use case, show some of the problems that we're seeing out there, how you can potentially use technology to de-risk that and reduce your cost, and hopefully have that peace of mind that you've got the right individuals with the right skills out there on the facilities. And that's pretty much the crux of where we focus. So that's all for the initial presentation. I'm happy to pause there, Nico, and take any questions.
Awesome. All right. First of all, thanks so much for that presentation, Matt.
Thank you.
I found it very crisp and clear, but I'm hoping we have some questions here. I actually have one out of curiosity. So I can see how it applies to shutdowns and turnarounds. So are you seeing similar benefits in day-to-day maintenance and operations?
Yeah, it's a good question, Nico. Yes, we are. Like I said, shutdowns and turnarounds and those sort of peak loads where lots of people new to site are coming on board is one of those core use cases. But yeah, absolutely, we have plenty of oil and gas operators or mining companies that want to manage, a couple of hundred suppliers or vendors for all the day-to-day maintenance, where they have 5 to 10 people or 500, and that gives them that real-time assurance on a day-to-day basis. And again, if you're plugging that live, rich, verified data into your other site-based systems, then there's a lot of benefit you can get out of a tool like this for your day-to-day as well.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. And so looking at it a little bit more in like a, let's say, deployment base, who's actually deploying it? Is it generally deployed by the asset owners and operators, or is it the service companies themselves? What can you take us through how a typical deployment looks like? Yeah,
so we typically get deployed in two ways, and I guess this is where we've really focused on trying to add value to each layer of the supply chain, from the workers to their employers, the service providers, and the site owners, the asset owners or operators. So we'll either get deployed by the operator or the asset owner, so they'll engage, will get us to start engaging with their supply chains. As I said, that could be 100 or 300 companies that they'll put us in contact with. We help them onboard all their workers into their worker pools. They share the workers that are relevant to that site or that facility. Or if it's a particular project, there'll be a resource request and matching process. But what's interesting is we also get engaged directly by the service companies as well, because they also get a reduced risk and a reduced cost. So some of our biggest clients are the actual contracting companies themselves, because they also are trying to get off spreadsheets and make their life a little bit easier as well. You wouldn't believe how prevalent spreadsheets are in this world still.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So win-win pretty much there. Nice. I think for me, my last question, if you had to pinpoint it, MyPass Global versus any other tool out there, what for you is the key difference you guys bring to the table?
Yeah, the key difference for me is really that digital work skills passport that individuals can self-maintain, that they can, through a permission structure, choose who has access to it, and that is verified. So that single source of truth for that individual that can go between industries and sectors. So we have workers that move between oil and gas and mining, or utilities, etc., and they can take that same portable credentialing record with them and plug into various facilities and sites. And we're even seeing that extending into other sort of non-profit sectors like volunteering, where it might be someone who's off duty or off roster from their day-to-day job, and they're wanting to help out in an emergency response or whatever it may be, and apply their skills that way. And so we're actually being deployed as a volunteer passport as well. So yeah, it's that ability to have that verified credential record that can go with the individual is probably the main thing that I'd highlight.
All right, awesome. That sounds very good. So thank you very much for that. So if people are getting sick and tired of spreadsheets, then Matt is the one to contact, and we'll make sure if you want to get in contact with him that we will provide all of that in the wrap-up email and get you connected. So also for the people seeing the recording at some point later, if you have a question also at a later point in time, please reach out to us. That's the beauty of this recording. That's the intention. We will always make sure that we get you two parties connected. For today, thank you so much, Matt, for this presentation and answering my questions here. And I think that kind of segues us into our second presentation of today. So that will be Kurt Alexander. So Kurt, I'm looking very much forward to your presentation. I think he's coming on in a minute. There he is. Perfect. Hi, Kurt. So
Hi.
Yeah, good to have you here as well. I see,
no worries.
Like Matt, you're also having the full company swag on, both in the company shirts. Very nice, very good to see. And yeah, I'm very much...
Yeah, safety first.
Exactly. I'm looking very much forward to your presentation here.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks, Nico, and thanks to TechnologyCatalogue. So yeah, I mean, hi everybody, and welcome to the webinar, where we're going to show you some innovative technologies to ensure that your site and your people are safe and compliant. So in this background, I just want to introduce myself. So as I said, I'm Kurt Alexander. I've spent 40 plus years in and around the electrical industry, originally in the US, and then for the past 32 years here in Australia. QuickSafety is my fourth business, but it's a business that was spawned out of my passion to keep the industry safer and to really clear up a whole bunch of inconsistencies and a whole bunch of risk factors that I saw within the industry. I'm very passionate about the electrical industry, and I want to make it better and safer than it currently is, and that's for everyone. So everybody from the electricians to the electrical contractor, even to the asset owner, which is the beauty of our product because it serves to de-risk the entire profiles of all those people. So electrical safety. So I'll just go back through what we're currently thinking about electrical safety and electrical compliance, just as a refresher for everybody. So electrical safety on any oil and gas platform is absolutely paramount. So oil and gas platforms deal with various potential dangers, with electricity being one of the most dangerous contributing factors. Statistically, electrical fatalities make up 4.6% of all oil and gas fatalities and 6% of all significant incidences. And that's according to the EIC and the EICX reports that were recently published. So this doesn't include as well the explosions which were caused by electrical faults. And OSHA lists the electrical energy sources as number 2 for the cause of fires. Statistically speaking, across all structures, 20% of all structural fires are caused by electrical faults. And the classic example of this would be, everybody knows of Notre Dame, and aging infrastructure and the deterioration of those cables is critically where we focus and what we solve. So this is why Zurich Insurance globally is looking for better protection for their clients. So we're currently working with Zurich globally in that mandate. And so here are just a few listed outcomes based on personal injuries and the damage to those assets. So what's really at risk from poor or non-existent electrical safety? So all of these here, your people, your property, and your reputation, these are integral to any company's infrastructure and any company's progress in the onboarding of new people into the reputation of the company, to their share price. It affects a lot of different things. And it's hard to come back from any electrical incident that's been found to be due to negligence or lack of oversight. And that's what we're seeing a lot in the industry, is this lack of oversight. So we have two options. And unfortunately, everybody generally thinks to be reactive rather than proactive. So if we're reactive, we're literally putting out fires as they happen. We don't worry about something until it breaks or it fails. So what about redundancy systems? First of all, they're too expensive. To create a complete physical twin of all the electrical circuits across an asset is not even worth considering. But yet companies will spend millions of dollars in having a backup generator to produce power. But if the cable has failed, it doesn't matter how many backup generators you have. So in the proactive mindset, now we have the capability to prevent before this becomes an issue and can cause any harm or damage. And the tech developments that are being developed today are absolutely amazing. And the issue here lies with finding a balance between the reliability of that and the cost. So issues also arise with compatibility, the implementation, and the training. So overall, why not monitor and predict the current system to ensure that you get maximum life out of that asset while still maintaining safety and the reliability of those services? So the goal, well, the goal basically is to keep electricity in its place, keep it where it's designed to be, make sure that there's no electrocutions. It's safety for every person on that site. It's the continuation of power to make sure there's no interruptions and no downtimes. When you have critical infrastructure, you want to ensure that that is still producing income and you don't have unexpected downtime. So if we now investigate electrical compliance, while this is different from electrical safety, it should ensure that you are electrically safe. If you're doing compliance correctly, it should make everything electrical safe. So why do we have it? Well, here we've listed some definitions, and it's the requirement to the standards that's actually out there at the moment to ensure electrical safety, and you have compliance standards. It's the organization's duty to do this. It's the consistency of doing this the same way every single time. And it establishes a baseline and defines actually how and why we actually do these things. So the current system is really a system that is outdated and really woeful in my idea, because we've been doing this paper-based system for decades and decades, and everybody just accepts it as that's the best way to do this. So with the paper-based, now some are doing some digital, but the biggest issue is that the testing is not validated and not transparent to all the entities. They're all relying on one single electrician saying, yes, that is compliant. And then there's the issue of what happens if something else goes wrong? Do we have significant evidence for the company that they took all reasonable measures to protect the structure and the people working on that structure? Will that evidence hold up in court? Paper documents will not hold up in the court of law. You could fill them out at any time, you could date them as any time, and there's no proof and no auditability that that testing was completed at that time and that it met the standards. So here's proof of what I'm talking about. This was done on an infrastructure asset, tested by 2 electricians. There was 18 different circuits that were tested, and all 18 of those failed. And this was on new construction. So when we did a snapshot across new construction, we were very, sorry for the pun, but we were very shocked that we had a 42% failure rate in new construction. If anything should be good, it should be the actual new construction. So let's take this into the 21st century now. So why are we throwing out all this important vital data? Why do we do a test across this circuit and store it in a paper, do a test across that same circuit and store it in this paper over here? There's no connectivity. So why are we concerned only about today's results? Why are we dependent on one single electrician's word that Everything's okay. How can we save all of our testing info into one easy portal and have court legal documents as part of that same process? And we use the information to make our platform safer, more reliable, and protect everyone's reputation. So now we can. QuickSafety solves all these issues and more. We provide the safety alerts, which now combine all 23 safety alert channels into one single portal and pushes them back out on the actual app that the electricians are using. We test to the standards and we do that validation within the app. The electricians no longer have to run these calculations around in their head to try to figure out whether something's compliant or not to the standard. It gives complete transparency all the way from your electricians to the contractors to the asset owner. Everybody now knows in real time exactly what's happening with that asset. And most importantly, there's court legal document storage for 7 years, which is mainly the requirement that you're required to store all those test documentation should you ever need to take and reproduce those in court, which we would hope not. So now we have the ability to prevent and predict electrical power faults and failures. And this is massive in the industry. So now we can know beforehand of the likelihood of a power failure of a cable or an RCD, ensuring that you have continued power when you need it to all your assets. We can also prevent electrical fires, ensuring that the safety and integrity of your asset is secure. We now can prevent electrocutions as another added feature of what we do here at QuickSafety. We really do protect life, property, and reputation, regardless of how big or how small your company is, from homes, residential homes, all the way to oil and gas infrastructures. We cover it all. So we're a fully certified AS/NZS 3000 and 3017 product. It's the only one on the entire planet that has that certification. We're also approved by each state electrical regulatory body and meet all your electrical testing requirements. So that concludes my presentation for safety and compliance today. And I appreciate your patience and attendance today. And now we'll take some questions should you have some. And once again, thanking you for the opportunity to share my passion and our process in which we want to make the world a safer place when it comes to electricity and compliance. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for that, Kurt. A second very great presentation. I very much enjoyed that. So if you have questions, please put them at the chat box at the bottom. I certainly have a few. So for me, first of all, great solution. Again, as in the first presentation, it's a digital solution to just outdated paperwork. For me, the question would though be, will the app work with no reception?
Sure, great question.
Yeah.
And that's specifically what we did in our development. We wanted to have all the calculations per any certain standard held within the app.
Okay.
So whether it's a tablet or an app, once you download that onto your device, it stores all those calculations. So you don't need reception at all. And that's why we've designed it to go down into mine sites, to go into remote areas, to go offshore. All of that is covered with the app.
All right. So that will then be backed up. So that would kind of lead me to my second question then. How does the security of the results work?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of interesting things with security. So we've actually, because I've been in the industry so long, which is probably too long in the industry for some people, but you really know exactly what needs fixed. And one of the things that needed fixed was ensuring that the electrician was actually connected to that contractor and had contractor's approval for doing that job on your asset. So in the current system, an electrician can rock up with somebody else's uniform on, do the testing, give you the documents, put the contractor's number down on that document, and the asset owner has no idea. They're just taking everything for granted. Our system requires a handshake and an authority to be done between the electrician and the contractor, and also the contractor and the asset holder. So now the asset holder can say, okay, on this asset, we have 10 different contractors. So we're going to allow them to have access to the electrical data for those assets. And then when they do their testing, they onboard their electricians that are going to do that testing on those assets. And now everything's secure.
Okay, fair enough. For me, and I'm just, because we spoke a lot, or you spoke a lot about, well, you know, also legal standards, and I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, but, well, the fault is on the electrician, right? If the work is not done directly. So why should somebody else take those measures? It's their fault, essentially, right? And I'm being provocative here on purpose, obviously. But could you maybe elaborate to that if somebody has that thought? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a classic thing that I hear all the time is that I don't have to worry about electrical compliance because that's the electrician's fault or that's the contractor's fault. That's not true. Now, in Australia, the changes in the Workplace Health and Safety Act, Section 5 in particular around PCBU rulings, now mandate that the directors of that asset are now directly reliable for two things: complete safety and complete compliance. So those two things are actually now the director's responsibility, and directors in Australia have been found and go to court and actually paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for their assets not being compliant when they're back in the old school mentality of saying, hey, I don't have to worry about it. It's not my fault. It's the electrician's fault. That's no longer the case because you have to ensure that you have taken every reasonable step to ensure that that asset is safe.
Okay, perfect. That kind of concludes my questions, but I see actually that two points came in here, and that would be: could you give some information about the change management required for replacing existing ways of working in this way? So that would be the first one. Maybe you could speak to that.
The change management sorry, I just missed that last bit.
Sorry, so the change management was required for replacing the existing ways around it. Could you speak to that?
If we could have a little bit more information, change management as far as within the asset structure or with the contractors, with the actual testing required? It was just a bit too broad there for me to...
No problem. So maybe, Caroline, if you could specify that in the chat box again. And the second question, actually also from Caroline, maybe we can address that in the meantime, was she's interested in some users' feedback. So do you have that readily available somewhere? Where could people find that?
Yep, we do. So we have done projects with Coles Express, and Liquorland nationally. We're currently working with Warmold on a national level. That's why I'm down here on the Gold Coast tonight. I did a 6 o'clock toolbox talk this morning with Warmold in Brisbane, and now I'll do one tomorrow morning early with the Gold Coast crew. So yes, we definitely do have that, and we can pass that on.
Okay, great. So I'm hoping, Caroline, if you could, yes, there I see the second text coming in. So the question is, what do people need to learn and change if they start using your method instead of their current method? So where do you encounter resistance? Yeah. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, great question. So what we've actually developed is, some people look at it and say, all you're doing is just basically turning a paper-based system into a digital system, and kind of like a iAuditor or a safety culture. That's not true. I mean, while we do produce the digital document, yes, it's the validation, the transparency, and the court legal document storage that makes us different from anybody else. So in that process, the electricians don't have to do anything different, nothing at all. All they have to do, it's the same testing requirements, it's the same mandated test. There's nothing more or extra that we're requiring them to do. We're just requiring them to do what the law says they should do. and the contractors as well. So the beauty about our product is that we're not a SaaS product. I mean, we are a tech company, and you think that we would be a SaaS product, but we're not. And we're specifically not because we need to control the cost back down to the asset level. And a SaaS product can't do that. If you're running 10 different infrastructures and you're paying this monthly SaaS product, and one infrastructure is taking up 90% of that, you do your calculations and all that. So ours is per asset because we know exactly how many electrical circuits are on that asset, and we know the frequency and the relevancy of those tests, and then we pay per test on that. and that includes that 7-year storage. So initially, on a very small case user, you would pay $1 per circuit for a complete AS3000 certified test and the report. And that includes your 7-year storage with that as well. So, and then the RCD test, they start at 60 cents, and both of those figures then tier down as per the actual likelihood. Bigger companies would never pay that much. But at least you can attribute it back to an asset, because now you know this asset has 1,000 circuits and is tested once a year. So we know this compliance documentation is going to cost us, you know, if you're on the low tier, $1,000.
Okay, thank you for that elaboration. Good. I hope that answers your question, Caroline. Yeah, the comment from her is assets love that.
Yeah,
pricing.
Yeah, exactly. No, great question, Caroline.
Okay,
Right.
So yeah, perfect. I'm very glad that we could answer that one. Certainly, if somebody else has a question, or Caroline, if you have a follow-up, we will provide all the contact details. Yes, in the wrap-up email. So I think that kind of brings us to the end here. I think my questions are answered. It seems that we also don't have any more questions from the chat box. So also thank you very much to you, Kurt. And
no worries.
Yes, perfect. And yeah, I said, yes, there's Matt also. Yeah, thank you too so much for your presentation today, for answering my questions, for answering the users' questions. Thanks everybody for tuning in. As I said at the beginning, it's the last webinar of 2020, so this concludes the season from our side. Thank you so much for being here as the last but definitely not least two presenters of the year. The recording will obviously be made available. The slides will be made available. If you have questions to these two, reach out to us. We will make sure we connect you guys. The video will be there in a few days, so bear with us. We will edit it a bit, fine-tune it, upload it. It will not be lost. And yeah, I think two great last technologies of the year, showing how digitalization, especially in times of COVID, can help us also in the safety regard, making sure our assets are protected and everything works. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day, I would say. Thanks you two specifically.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.